Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from BoardGameCo, and it's another week in review, game news, and week in review, and all of that. And as usual, if you're new here, timestamps down below to any relevant section you want to jump to, whether it's games coming out, other news thingamajiggies, topic of the week, what I've played, the videos, all that stuff, and starting off with a variety of game announcement, Kickstarters, retail, there may be retail, I'm not even sure what's what in some of these. We have Settlement. Settlement's going to be a game from Alexander Nevsky, I want to say is how you pronounce it. He's the designer of Mysterium and a variety of other games as well, just that's one of them. Speaking of which, I have the Mysterium, I have the other Mysterium, the new one that I haven't played yet. I need to get that played. I loved the original Mysterium, but it never actually saw the table with our group because of the player count and optimal player count and people in my group who didn't like it. I have the new one, which supposedly is easier to table. I'll play that at some point. I'm getting sidetracked. We have Settlement, which is a game going to be coming out from, well, him. You can check it out. I'll throw a link to all the stuff down below as usual. I don't know much about the game past the fact that I'm semi-interested in it based on, just what little I see, just images and all that. Then we have Night of the Ninja from Brotherwise Games. Now, Night of the Ninja, Brotherwise Games is going to be the people who did you, Boss Monster, the dungeon game, as well as a bunch of other things. I believe they have the Dragon Prince game coming up. But Night of the Ninja is going to be a bit of a social deduction game, and the art in it is absolutely beautiful. I mean, gameplay above everything, obviously, but the art is all created with shadow boxes, which is fascinating. It's not like drawn, it's little paper cutouts and then taking a photo, which is how they created the art. Looks beautiful, looks stunning. Hope the game is good, because the art alone is not enough, but either way. Then we have Caral, which is possibly Caral, I don't know, but Caral is going to be the newest game coming to us from Funtails, who brought us Glenmore, which I actually just played this week in the first time in a while, as well as Feed the Kraken. And Caral is going to be totally different game from them. Looks to be decent medium weight to game. Again, beautiful. Art looks beautiful. Component looks beautiful. Very interested in the game. We'll see what happens. That's going to be coming out, I want to say October. I want to say late October. It's coming out to Kickstarter. Then we have Epic Origins, which is going to be the next game from the people who brought you Call to Adventure. Now, I don't know if it's a spiritual successor, a spiritual prequel, an actual successor or prequel, or just a similar-ish game, but it's called Epic Origins, which if you've played Call to Adventure, makes me think it does have some similarities. Call to Adventure is a game where you build out your character's choices and backstory as you navigate through different cards and choices, flipping runes and engaging in different things along the way, crafting a story as you go. And Epic Origins screams some sort of precursor or something along those lines to that game. For myself, Call to Adventure never really did it for me, unfortunately. But either way, we'll see how this one plays out. If the mechanics are different, I may well be interested. If it's just another one in the series and not much has changed, I probably won't bite on that one. Moving on, lastly in the new games list, a fairly short list this week, we have Avalonia from Farside Games. That's going to be the company that brought us Epic 7 Arise, if you remember that, on Kickstarter. Epic 7 Arise was on Kickstarter maybe 6 months ago, somewhere in that range. Epic 7's an app-based game that they brought it to Kickstarter. I wasn't totally sold on the actual game. I thought it looked fine, but I wasn't pulled in enough. And in general, anime in general is like a hump I have to get over. So if you have an anime art, like for instance, Bullet's a great example. Bullet from Level 99 Games. I have that game because I heard it was so good, but I ignored it initially, partially because of the anime artwork doesn't really appeal to me. It's not that I'm against it. It is something that I'm, I guess, a little bit against. Not against, the wrong word. Not pulled in by. It's not neutral. It's, if you're talking about different themes or artwork styles or all that, there's going to be neutral, positive, and negative. Anything anime usually tends a drop below neutral to negative for me, which Epic 7 Arise was. That said, that's totally different than Avalonia. Avalonia is going to be far more medieval, although medieval with a dark twist. If you see some of the artwork, it's definitely got a bit of darkness going on in this world. A little more towards neutral, weirdly enough. Complete dark twist with, limbs being severed or different kinds of things there is more neutral to me. Not positive, not negative, whereas anime is a drop negative. These videos never really go the way I think they're going to go. For me, I was just going to talk about 5 different games. Instead, in those 5 different games, I've gone on like 17 different tangents, and technically this tangent is its own little miniature tangent, but that is what it is, because, well, it is what it is. That's going to be the new games we are talking about, new game announcements, all that kind of thing. Which brings us to 2 small little news thingies. The very first small one, which is not a big deal at all, just I thought it's funny, is obviously, not obviously, you are probably aware of Mythic Mischief's current Game Found campaign. And they've also been dropping videos from content creators, one at a time, of different people in the industry: Jeremy Howard, Monique Naveen, Becca Scott, Mark Street, Quackalope, all these people, different people playing the game, Mythic Mischief. Now, there was a recent video with, I want to say, is Zach from IV Games and Quackalope playing Mythic Mischief. I'll link to it specifically with the timestamp. But in the background of the video, you'll suddenly see a string of familiar people walking through the studio and just browsing the books on the shelf behind them as they play. I thought it was entertaining. But if you want to see a video with myself, Jeremy Howard, Quackalope, Monique Naveen, Mark Street, all in one single shot. I think Mark Street was in that shot. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure he was. But either way, whole bunch of people all in a single 4-minute segment just wandering into the background. I think it's entertaining, so I'm just talking about it. And then in much bigger news, ThinkerThemer, a channel that I've frequently talked about and did a video with at one point, I'll have to do another one at some point, but ThinkerThemer with Amy and Maggie, they just had their 1-year anniversary video. I'll link to that video down below. But really, if you have the hour, and if you don't have the hour, skip around, maybe, I don't know, or just don't watch it, you don't have to, but I do recommend watching it. It's very heartfelt, it's very touching. They joined the content creator space, they're gamers, they a year ago they started doing videos, and in particular, because of their background, in particular, they were worried and scared that it would be a place that was not welcoming to them. And just the opposite. It has been incredibly welcoming to them, and they've had an amazing year of just continuing to grow and having both people in the industry as well as just viewers engage and be welcomed by and saying words poorly here, but they have had a positive impact on many, and it seems that many have had a positive impact on them. It's very heartfelt to watch, and honestly, I mean, I only ever recommend channels that I think do quality content. I'm all for any form of equality, representation, all those things in the industry, but any channel I've ever talked about on my channel, any content creator I've ever shouted out to or recommended or said, hey, let's get them over 1,000 subs or whatever it is I do, it's only ever been because I've enjoyed their content. To me, it's always the content first and foremost. I watch and enjoy ThinkerThemer's videos because I think they are entertaining. I think they are warm. I think they are caring. I think they are a joy to watch and be in the space. And so I'm happy to see them grow, and I'm happy to see that there are many others who see the same things in them that I do. And I remember once, a long time ago, back when I did live videos more often, I still try to do live videos. They're not frequent on the channel, but I remember at one point someone said, hey, have you heard of the channel ThinkerThemer? And I hadn't. And I didn't really do anything about it. And then a few weeks later, I was kind of rewatching it, the live stream, and I saw the thing, and I was like, oh, let me look it up. And I found them, and I appreciated their content. And I was like, oh, I see why the person recommended. But yeah, I'm very happy for them. I'm very happy for their continued growth in this space, and I hope that they're around for a long time. It's a lot of fun. Speaking as someone who does these videos, it's a lot of fun to talk to the camera sometimes. It's very relaxing to talk to the camera sometimes. It's something therapeutic to a degree of being able to just have this connection, half imagined, half real. It is real, but right now, as I talk to you, I'm talking to a digital device in front of me that isn't you. But that's the imagined part of it. The real part of it is I know that at some later point, after I film this, you're now engaging in what I've said, what I've done, and it creates this weird connection that's unlike anything I've ever seen. It's something fascinating. I remember when Tom Matson from Orange Nebula, he recently had, I believe it was something to some heart surgery. I can't remember exactly what it was. So he had a surgery. I remember he started his video by saying how it was almost easier for him to say to all his friends, his close friends and coworkers, hey, I'm going to talk to the camera now. It was easier to talk to the camera than it was to them because of this kind of real yet fake connection at the same time. It's fascinating. It's weird, but it's really there. And I know how much I appreciate and enjoy it, and therefore, when someone else talks about their appreciation, I can feel the same thing, if that makes sense. But yeah, ThinkerThemer, they celebrated their 1-year anniversary. I'm very happy for them, and I hope they continue to stick around in this space. Which brings us to the topic of the week. And the topic of the week, this one is, I was going to, spoiler-ish, I was going to talk about the whole tournament fishing thing, but I'm actually going to talk about that in Monday's To Back or Not To Back when I talk about tournament fishing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, It's not a big deal. It's not important. And if you do know what I'm talking about, yes, I'll be talking about it. I won't be ignoring it or brushing over it. But I'll be doing that in Monday's to back or not to back. Instead, this week I wanted to focus on Agemonia versus Arydia. So, I've had a lot of comments from people saying, hey, Agemonia, Arydia, which one do you prefer? And originally I was planning on doing a play this, not that video on the two games. But I'm not going to right now. Primarily because, well, there's two reasons. It's a combination of two reasons, both equally valid, both relevant. The first is that, as someone who does Kickstarter previews, not previews, Kickstarter reviews, but I'm reviewing prototypes. But that means, what do I do when the prototype comes in down the road? When I review a game, Paint the Roses, let's say. When I review Paint the Roses, and the final game lands and hits people's shelves, what do I do then? Do I review it again, now that it landed? But I already reviewed it. Do I want another review just because one small rule changed and some components were upgraded? Do I care? Is that worth another full review? Or not? Do I just not cover it? I mean, that's an option. I don't need to cover every game twice. Maybe I do a playthrough of it. That might work for shorter games, but longer games. So, one answer that I've always appreciated is sometimes I have other forms of content. Maybe I do a review doing the Kickstarter, but I do a play this, not that when it actually lands. So I'm able to cover it, but in different ways. So that's always an option. Not that I can do it with every game, but it certainly is an option for some games. And with Arydia and Agemonia, it's a great option. Down the road, I can do a play this, not that of the two games, and I've already reviewed them both, so great. Although the second reason is relevant to the fact that these particular reviews, more so than others, are very much first impression reviews. Both Arydia and Agemonia I really enjoyed. Arydia, if you don't know, I gave a 5 out of 5. Agemonia, I gave a 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed both. I think there is a chance that Agemonia is better, for me, than Arydia over multiple plays. I think it's a slim chance, but I think it is a chance. The problem with both these games is both these games I have roughly 3 hours, maybe 4 hours tops of content between them. And that's not a ton of content for games that are that progressive. Both Arydia and Agemonia are games that, going for the first hour to the second hour to the third hour, each hour was drastically better than the one before it as I continued to build upon the world that it was showing me. Which means going from hour 3 to hour 10 may totally change where I'm at. It's a game, both these games are games that I decided I didn't want to do a play this, not that, until I've been able to dive into them on a much more serious basis and not on an intro level basis. That said, enough of you requested it that here I am, spending 3 or 4 minutes explaining why I'm talking about it. So, what's the deal? Arydia and Agemonia. Let's talk about a play this, not that. I like Agemonia a lot. Each subsequent play of Agemonia across the 3 tutorials I was given, and I played it 5 times, I played the first tutorial like 3 times, and the second tutorials 1 time each. But each subsequent play was drastically better. The difference between the 4 and the 5 for me in these two games is Arydia feels incredibly innovative in the way it handles the open world engagement. Agemonia doesn't feel quite as innovative. Now, I haven't played every game under the sun, I haven't played every dungeon crawler under the sun, I haven't played every narrative-based dungeon crawler under the sun. So I don't have perfect information when I compare them all. But while Agemonia felt, to a certain extent, very narrative-focused and choose-your-own-adventure and interact with different characters, and you won't be able to explore everything, but what you explore and how you explore will give you different gateways and pathways into this evolving puzzle of a storybook, it very much did feel fairly innovative, but it felt almost innovative within a predefined structure. Versus Arydia felt like a video game in a way that I haven't seen any board game truly tackle. The degree of open world exploration, the degree of NPC encounters, the degree of NPCs that upgrade and develop as you have different interactions with the world, thus involving the NPCs and changing them. Now I think Agemonia is going to be a lot easier to jump into play after play and a lot less fiddling with grabbing cards or maps or other things, which may well give it points as I continue to play both those games. Again, I don't know yet where I end up with those two games. Where I end up with them right now is I think Agemonia gets bonus points for accessibility. I think combat's a tough one. I think I'm going to give them both equal scores for combat, at least right now. Both of them give me a degree of combat that I enjoy and appreciate, but neither of which are amazing, both of which are enjoyable. I would maybe Arydia gets slightly more points because their combat striking system, where you can have pattern building on the enemies, does feel slightly more innovative. Not actually as applicable as I'd like, at least not with the enemies I encountered, but it does feel a drop more innovative in terms of different weapons and engagement you can have there. The character progression, both of them I think give me equal points. There's a degree of stat building in both. There's a degree of choosing different skills, and you can have actually more skills than your character can hold, but before each mission you choose different skills. I like that. I think the impact on the world and the degree of choice you have and the way you interact with elements and the way those carry over, both of those did that fairly well. They both very much focus on fail forward as opposed to repeating different things. Both of them really do a solid job in very different ways. Miniatures, I think Arydia gets a solid win in that camp. I mean, I just like the miniature design and sculpts and the painted miniatures, pre-painted, fabricated characters, build your own character. I like that a lot more in Arydia. The NPC kind of interaction is a much higher point for Arydia. I really enjoy that more. Agemonia, the biggest point it's going to get over Arydia is going to be that accessibility. The ability to jump from to scenario just feels much, much faster. The allocation of actions as a resource, Arydia, again, is interesting because Arydia kind of has more of a free-flowing flow to the way you engage with the world, and then as an enemy spawns, you kind of get locked into a bit of a now timing matters. Now the enemy's moving after you, but until the enemy's in play, the world is more open. Whereas Agemonia is locked. You're always on a timer, so to speak. You're always engaged on a more of a clock. I think the different pathways towards a victory and the way you can explore any individual thing, this one's harder to see because they really will continue to evolve as I go through them. I would say each individual encounter in Agemonia likely did feel to me a drop more like the different ways I can interact with this bullet point than that bullet point in order to get to that bullet point felt a little bit more free-flowing. Arydia had it as well, but the consequences of how it plays out to the mechanical elements of the scenario, I didn't think felt as fleshed out. Again, tutorial-based where it's at. So overall, both of them really are solid experiences that I'm happy to add to my collection. And overall, both of them are games that I want to dive back into much further. And they're not games that I need to play the whole thing through before I do a Play This Not That video. But I do want to get maybe 7 plays in, 10 plays into each of them. I want to get a lot further. I want to get to the point where I'm no longer consistently being more and more impressed each time. Each of these games are games where once I play through the content, I was like, I wish I had more content. I want to continue diving back into it. They're both enjoyable. They're both easy. The degree of teamwork. I want to say the teamwork in Agemonia felt more essential. That's probably an interesting one. Because in Agemonia, by default, you're controlling 2 characters, which is almost essential as you ricochet across the map in different areas. So even when you're playing it solo, you do control 2 characters. And I think that does add a degree of teamwork that is more inherent in Agemonia than Arydia. Now, Arydia, when I played it solo, I played with 2 characters, playing two-handed. But the game is designed that you could play it true solo, which also means the game's designed that playing off of each other is not as important. That mechanical aspect of different exploratory points in Agemonia was very intriguing. I like the fact that in Agemonia, in all of the scenarios I played, even the ones with enemies, there was like an option. You could have beat the entire scenario without ever once defeating an enemy. Which means there's like a pacifist reward or approach you can have. I don't know if Arydia had that, at least not in the encounters I had. To a degree, you had to kind of kill the things you engaged with. And again, I don't mind killing things. I did, and even in Agemonia, I killed all the things I engaged with. But just the degree of a choice that you have does feel intriguing. So, hopefully it's a bit of a cursory overview of a Play This Not That between the two. I really like both. Arydia just gives me a feeling that is so far removed from any other game I've played, that open world feel to it, that degree of, oh look, I see a character there, an NPC, I'm going to engage with the NPC. You may not even be in combat, but then depending on the results of the interaction you have with the NPC, you may suddenly enter combat. But if you go through a different path of options, you may not enter combat, you may instead end up going to some hidden room somewhere. It really had a degree of open world choices that felt a lot more engaging, a lot more unique and different. I'm curious to see how they play. If I had to guess right now, I'd say that Agemonia has maybe a 20 to 25% chance of beating Arydia over multiple plays as it develops. As of right now, both of them amazing experiences. Both of them I can easily recommend, but Arydia, at the end of the day, at least so far, gets points for feeling a drop more unique. Which brings us to what I've played. Let's go ahead and take a look to, where's my little app here? As usual, I use BG Stats to track my plays. I'm currently, fun fact by the way, let's see statistics. I'm currently at, nope, not the right one. Let's go to dashboard. I am currently at this year, no, it doesn't show it to me. It doesn't show it to me. I'm at 1,022 plays in the last 365 days. That's fun to see. I'm at 2,549 plays since I started tracking on the app. That was a while ago. and I'm at 92 plays in the last 30 days. So I'm averaging 3 plays a day, which is pretty fun. So anyways, let's go ahead. Speaking of 3 plays a day, let's go ahead and try to find out where I'm up to. So we got a lot done this past week, but we have Agemonia. Speaking of Agemonia, I believe I filmed my last week in review right before I then went and then played Agemonia over there. I think that's actually, I did a week in review, followed up with a solo tutorial of Agemonia, and then continued to finish off Agemonia. Then we have, what do we have over here? We have Santorini. I played a game of Santorini. I played, Paint the Roses first. I got Paint the Roses first, which I want to get some more played. I'll explain in a second when we talk about later. But I got another game of Paint the Roses. I've already played this online. This is my first play with my wife and daughter, with Rena and Ricky, and we played this. It's a cooperative little puzzle social deduction game. I'll be talking about it more. You may have already heard me talk about it when I did a 16 Kickstarters we're hyped about with Jeremy Howard. Then we have Santorini. Ricky and I got a few games of Santorini in, which is nice. It's a game that we frequently end up playing, but doesn't frequently get pulled out, but we'll knock out like a few games at a time. We really enjoy it. She won me in both games, by the way, because yeah. Then I got a bunch of plays of Camouflage in. Camouflage is it's a prototype game. It's not out yet. It's a little speed-based pattern matching game. Fun little experience. We have Cascadia. Okay, so I'm going to go through this a bit more, but short version as we go through it is I got a ton of plays of Cascadia, Verdant, and Calico in over this whole week. We'll keep talking about them as they come through. Maybe I'll talk about them in the end. They're all from Flat Out Games. They're all puzzly games. Cascadia is going to be more about building out different types of bears and foxes and eagles and all these different things, trying to create different patterns that each card has a different scoring pattern you're trying to take into account as you build out your terrain and whatnot. We have Ugly Griffin in, which is great. It's going to be a button shy game. I haven't played it in a while. I finally got another play of it in. I don't know if it stays in my collection long term. I probably should get rid of it, honestly. I like a lot of the small button shy games. Ugly Griffin is probably lower on the rungs of how much I like it compared to any of the other games. I'd rather play Sprawlopolis. I'd rather play the Food Chain Island from them. I like Ugly Griffin in, and it's tiny and small, which is why it's still here. Ultimately, time will tell if I keep pulling it out or not. We got Tranquility. Rena and I recently discovered Tranquility, which recently had a Kickstarter, Tranquility Ascent, or whatever, Tranquility The Ascent, but I really enjoyed Tranquility. Rena and I have been liking that a lot. It basically fires the game for us, not the game called The Game. It fires that game for us in the sense that they both give me the same experience, but Tranquility is prettier, funner, fun is a word, and has different modules that mix up the experience. We have more plays of Camouflage, more plays of Tranquility. Veil of Ruin. Veil of Ruin was a prototype play on TTS, I believe. It's a upcoming deck building solo/cooperative experience. It does have a competitive 2-player head-to-head mode as well. Or maybe it's not 2-player, it has a competitive mode, let's go with that. But it's basically going to be a deck building experience where you fight different monsters as you go through different experiences and build up your deck. Think Slay the Spire as far as that kind of gameplay, although very different, but that general idea of adventuring deck building game. Obviously, it's not obviously, but it's a tactile. It's card-based. It's not a PC game. I happen to play it on a computer because TTS. Then we have more plays of Tranquility. Wow. We have Megapulse. Got a game of Megapulse in. That's going to be an upcoming racing game. Very solid. Keep your eyes peeled for that one. Great art, great gameplay, very fun and streamlined. Really enjoy that one. It's interesting, these racing games. I have a bunch of them now. We have Megapulse. We have Death Roads All-Stars. We have Tiny Turbo Cars. There's only so much space I have for these in my collection, so I'm curious to see which ones actually stand the test of time, because I enjoyed all 3 of those games. Will I keep all 3 of those games? Eventually something's gotta go. We'll see how it plays out, but for right now, we'll find out. We have Furnace. I'll talk about that later, because we'll be doing a review of it, probably in the near future. We have Calico, Mythic Mischief. Got another play of Mythic Mischief in. Let's talk about Calico first. Calico's going to be, again, Flat Out Games. A little puzzly game as you build out different patchwork quilts while trying to fulfill different scoring objectives. All their games have fulfilling 7,000 different scoring objectives and trying to optimize and min-max your way through them. Calico is by far the prettiest of the games, I'll say that, at least based on my own opinion. We have Mythic Mischief, got another play of that one. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Really enjoying playing that one. Introduced it to a new person in our group. He, as everyone who's played it, he has really enjoyed it. We dived back into it. Now he wants to play it again and come at it. He wants to play the Blitz mode, which I told him about. But Mythic Mischief. We have Gingopolis. Gingopolis, which I haven't played in like 3 years. Gingopolis is a game that I got rid of and got back, and I think it might stick around this time. I don't know for sure, but I really enjoyed Gingopolis. Gingopolis is a game I really like, but ultimately the game tends to feel very samey after a few plays. So having a 3-year hiatus break from it was nice. Diving back into it was nice. For right now, it's sticking around. I kind of hope they come out with an expansion and more content. I feel it almost needs it. We have Aquatica, which was so nice to dive back into Aquatica. Dive. You see, dive. But Aquatica is great. I love Aquatica. Solid game. Haven't played it in a few weeks. Not a few weeks. I haven't played it in like 2 months. 3 months maybe. It's the kind of game that I like it so much that if I don't play it in a month, I feel like I'm missing out. And it's been a while since I played it. So I was happy to dive back into it. We have another player, Furnace. We have Verdant again. Verdant, I don't think I have coverage yet. Verdant coverage is going to be today. Today's going to be coverage of Verdant. But Verdant's going to be the newest game from Flat Out Games, the newest one in their trilogy. They have, I don't know if it's a trilogy, just the third game. They have Verdant, Cascadia, and Calico. Verdant's going to be about matching up plants to different lighting conditions. So you're matching up plants next to rooms, trying to take that into account. Again, solid little puzzle. I have a playthrough and review coming up later today on the channel. We have Cascadia again. We have Glenmore 2 Chronicles. It's been a while since I played this one. And the problem that I have with Glenmore is I still need to play it with the modules. And they also have a new expansion as well. I really want to give the modules a shot. For right now, if I was judging Glenmore based on itself, it is a game that ends up feeling too samey across multiple plays, and I would get rid of it. I like it. I think it's a solid game, but it's a repetitive solid game. The modules I keep meaning to play. The problem is I keep playing Glenmore with new people, which means I don't really have a chance to try the module, so I'll get to it eventually. We have Waste Knights. I got in a few plays of Waste Knights 2nd Edition. I'll have a review coming at some point. I want to give another scenario 2 a shot, but Waste Knights is, well, we'll talk about it. We have Mythic Mischief. More Mythic Mischief. This one was with Ricky. The first time I played it with Ricky, it was a little slow. I told her that if she was fast enough, we would do a playthrough on the channel. She was not fast enough. Mythic Mischief is a game that is already analysis paralysis prone. It's already the type of game that you could take too long on your turns, and Ricky in general does not do great with AP games. Ricky's my daughter, if you don't know, but she does not do great with AP based games, and so she enjoyed it. It was 10-7 was the final score. I actually won right before the Tomekeeper hit the end, but it was 10-7. I won. She did solid. I mean, she got 7, which is pretty good. But it's not going to be a gameplay on the channel because it was the longest game I've had of Mythic Mischief to date. We have Via Magica. I got in a game of that with the kids. We have Cocopelli. I got in a few plays of Cocopelli with Rena. That's going to be the newest Stefan Feld game from Queen Games. I'm going to get a few more plays of it soon, but we'll have a review at some point. We have another game of Tranquility, and it looks like that brings us up to date, except for the game I didn't log. There's a bunch of games I didn't log, by the way, because we had a whole bunch of holidays, and I don't remember to log everything. But the newest game that I didn't log, I just played today, was going to be Myth and Goal. Myth and Goal from... Myth and Goal from Blacklist Games is going to be their upcoming Kickstarter, which is the sport-based game. Basically Blood Bowl, but not Blood Bowl. Very solid. I like that one a lot. I got an online play. I will not have coverage on the channel. I'll talk about it during the campaign, but I won't have like a physical prototype. They just have TTS only right now, but I really liked it. I need to play it more, but I really enjoyed it. We'll talk about it more. But I'll say I enjoyed it. It felt like it did some things differently than other sports-based games in the genre. Enough so, and then combined with beautiful art and great miniatures, I'm interested in the game. We'll see how it goes. We'll talk about it. But anyways, that is all the stuff I played. A whole bunch of stuff this past week. It was a busy week, a productive week. Busy weeks are productive weeks. There's definitely more games that I didn't remember to mark down. There was a lot of stuff. EOS. I got EOS in. Yeah, EOS Island Invasions. I already reviewed that one earlier in this week, but I got a few plays of EOS in. What else did I miss? I don't know, I'm looking around. The problem is I need to stop putting games back on the shelf until I log their plays, but then the basement will be more of a mess than it already is. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on. So, let's go through the week in review part of this video. The week in review. Let's talk about the videos this past week, all of that, upcoming things like that, and everything. And to begin with, we have Saturday. Saturday was going to be 2 reviews, a review for Solosphere, well, 1 review and a playthrough, a review of Solosphere, and then a playthrough of Agemonia. My review of Solosphere, basically it's a game. Did I log Solosphere? I have to check. I don't even know if I logged Solosphere. So, Solosphere is going to be a game from oh my gosh, forgot the name. Blanking on the name for Solosphere. Sorry about that. But Solosphere is their second game. It's like a D, blanking on it. Either way, Solosphere is going to be a dice placement game where you're going to be basically placing dice and building up your engine. It works really well. It's a game that I gave it a 3 out of 5, but it's the kind of game that's on the cusp. If I gave half points, it would be a 3.5. It trended towards a 4 because I think the engine building is really solid in the game. Something about it didn't pull me in as much as I'd like. I enjoyed it. The 3 out of 5 is a good game. And it I could almost argue giving it a 4, but I didn't in the end. Again, some cognitive dissonance in the theme and the lightness of the dice placement, but the heaviness of the rest. I felt it was a really solid game. I'm curious to see the end product as well as potential expansions or modules or things that might mix up the experience. I really enjoyed it. For right now, it's not one I'd be backing. Just again, I'm trying to minimize how much I back. It's not working very well, but I have to cut where I can. I enjoyed Solosphere. I would not turn a game down, but right now it's like I kind of want to dive into it more, but also want to play other games instead. Then we have Agemonia, which is a tutorial, which we'll talk about because of Sunday's video. Sunday's video, I did a review of Agemonia. So Agemonia is a game I played 5 times. I played the first tutorial 3 times, second tutorial once, third tutorial once. The third tutorial really locked it in for me. The degree to which the world builds up in those first 3 tutorials really gives you a solid experience that continues to develop and build upon itself and gives you more of a taste of what the experience is like the more you continue to play through it, which has me very intrigued. But that's, either way, I give it a 4 to 5. I already talked about it today because you heard me talk about it if you watched my Agemonia versus Arydia segment in this video. But overall, really enjoyed it. Agemonia is one that I will be backing, well, plan on backing at least as of now. I'll have my eyes peeled to the Kickstarter, see what changes. I haven't actually looked at the Kickstarter to see any of the pledge levels or anything like that, so maybe it's really expensive and I shouldn't back it. I don't know. We'll talk about it later. Watch any of the 2 back or not to back videos that show up on the channel. Then on Monday we had 2 back or not to back. I missed the last week. Well, not missed, I skipped. I tend to skip weeks that only have like 3 or 4 new things. But basically Monday was 2 back or not to back with a whole bunch of Kickstarters and just catching up on all the stuff. Lots of solid stuff. Some stuff I'll be backing, some stuff I won't. We had Backyard Chickens, we had Super Truffle Pigs, we had Black Rose Weed Birth, we had Mythic Mischief, a ton of stuff. I'm managing to stay strong and not back a bunch of games that I'm very interested in. And I'm not managing to stay strong in other areas, and I'm backing some games that I probably shouldn't, but it is what it is. But that is going to be to back or not to back. Then on Tuesday we had 3 reviews. We had a review for EOS, for Sheepy Time, and for Artemis Odyssey. EOS is a game from King Raccoon Games, published in association with Grey Fox. They've worked together on Tsukami, The New Dawn, something like that, Full Moon, whatever it was. But either way, and I know there's drama about Grey Fox games in general. People have a lot of complaints. I agree is the wrong word. I know that there are enough complaints that if you back a game from Grey Fox Games, understand that there are risks associated with it. On the other hand, understand as well that most people seem to have no issues. Inherently, the nature of if you ship 1,000 games and 70 of them have issues, the 930 people are not telling you that they had a great experience. The 70 are going to be 70 very loud people who tell you they had a bad experience. I'm not in any way saying they don't have bad experiences. They have bad experiences. Grey Fox is a company that unfortunately is associated with having a higher degree of risk or problems associated with their quality control. Keep in mind, I say this as somebody who runs a used board game store, and we have plenty of people who complain and have issues, and many of them are very legitimate issues. It doesn't detract from the fact that we have far more happy customers at the same time. But my point is, Grey Fox Games is a company that you should back with the knowledge that until they clean up their process, their games do have some degree of issues. At the same time, most games actually go just fine. This is a long tangent to the fact that EOS Island of Angels is a game that I really enjoyed. It's a little messy. I gave it a 4 to 5 for right now. Definitely very much a tentative one. I mean, any review that's a prototype is tentative until things change and develop. I really liked it. I don't see it going to a 5, even if they clean it up a bit and streamline it a bit. I don't see it becoming a 5 unless the game totally changed. It feels like a messy experience, but it's one that I really enjoyed. It has lots of leveling up, powers and upgrades, and different ways of approaching and gaining points or chronicles or as you go through the game. I really enjoyed it. Great art, great powers and abilities, lots of fun stuff going on in EOS. Then we have Sheepy Time from AEG, a review I did with Ricky, my daughter. Sheepy Time's a good game. It's Push Your Luck. I feel they could have tweaked it just a drop, and it would have been a game that I'd recommend even for game night for adults and whatnot. As it stands, I feel it is a game I'd recommend as a family game, but it's not a game I'm ever pulling out at game night. There are much better Push Your Luck games that don't have the swinginess of luck that Sheepy Time does have. For me, it's a 3 to 5. I enjoyed it. I'm keeping it as long as my kids want it. As soon as my kids don't want to play it, it's gone. Then we have the last one was going to be Artemis Odyssey. Artemis Odyssey is another Kickstarter game that is, again, a 3 bordering on a 4, but drifted down to a 3. In general, by the way, whenever I have that urge of, is it a 3, is it a 4, I usually slide it down to a 3, and unless my mind pushes back, it stays at the 3. I always have the tendency to be positive, so if I'm on the fence, I try to counter that tendency by pushing it down to a 3. But Artist Odyssey is one that I enjoyed many aspects of. Some of the aspects, though, I didn't feel were tight enough or competitive enough. It is a game where you're placing down different cards to basically choose different actions that everyone will take, but you get the best or most ideal benefit from it. That part of the game works really well. It's a re-implementation of Ad Astra, by the way. I believe Bruno Fedudi, if I'm not mistaken, or Bruno Catala. Bruno Fedudi. I think it's Bruno Fedudi. But either way, overall, it's one that I enjoyed some aspects of it, while feeling other aspects of it weren't tight enough. And overall, I gave it a 3 out of 5, one that I am intrigued by, happy to play, not one I'm currently adding to my collection. Then we have Wednesday. Wednesday was going to be Where Are They Now? Another look back at basically things I reviewed or played a year ago, seeing how things have aged over time. I added in a new segment this time of just things I played a year ago, trying to talk about, okay, are they still hitting the table? You know, I'm constantly talking about Cult of the New, I'm constantly talking about new games, I'm constantly excited about games, and that's why when I can tell you, hey, by the way, I got Aquatica to the table again, that was great, I enjoyed it, hey, by the way, I'm still playing Mythic Mischief even though I'm done. I love that because those are like where you can really see, okay, great, there's experiencing games, and there's the drive to dive back in time and time again. By the way, speaking of which, I'm looking at the shelf behind you. I also played Port Royal, forgot to log it. Whatever. My point is, I'm missing this. I'm just looking at the shelf behind me. Either way, but yeah, so in general, Where Are They Now is a look back at how things have developed over time. Has my rating changed? Okay, great, I gave it a 5 out of 5. Am I still playing it? So for instance, a good example there, one that makes me sad is Machina Arcana. It's a game that I really liked. I gave it a 5 out of 5, and I haven't played it in almost a year, I want to say. And it's a shame because I really like that game, but it's not one that's being tabled, which is an interesting dichotomy. So great, Alex, you recommended Machina Arcana. You said it's great, but you're not playing it. Yeah, I want to play it. I hope that I will play it. I hope that maybe as my time shifts a little more out of content creation, not out of content creation, but as I free up more time in my life and can play more games, I hope and believe that Machina Arcana will be tabled. It's not leaving my collection anytime soon. But yes, I'm not playing it at the same time, which is one of those balances. Then Thursday. Thursday was 10 things Ivy Games wish they would have known. Basically, it was a bit of a video, an interview with Ivy Games talking about the Kickstarter process, and they're a fairly new company in the Kickstarter space. They had Moonrakers, then they had Veiled Fate, and then they have Mythic Mischief now. And just talking to them, but hey, you know, what are 10 things you wish you would have known about the process? And we got to hear fun things like Zach spending 10 minutes talking about Marvel versus DC, and then Austin talking about tax law, which I believe tax law is the more interesting of those two subjects, which is why I love Austin so much. But yeah, anyways, that was a fun video. I really enjoyed it. I think it was, I learned some stuff from it. People seem to enjoy it. Hopefully you did or didn't. If you watched it, I don't know. I mean, hopefully you did if you watched it, or I don't want to say hopefully you didn't enjoy it. That just seems weird. What am I doing? Move on, Alex. Move on. So, that was Thursday. Friday. Friday was what I did and didn't back with Rena. Basically going through a lot of games. I think it was 22 or 23 campaigns that I was interested in backing, of which I backed basically half of those. Again, this is with me trying to have self-control and saying no to a lot of games that I want to back, but I try to say no as much as possible, and I say yes to a lot at the same time. A lot of fun games in that one. A lot of fun things to go over. I recommend watching it as usual. If you want, just skip to the end where I tell you the 3 I would have backed if I could only back 3, and the 1 I would back if I could only back 1 of those campaigns, in case you really want to see push comes to shove. Like a lot of things, like this is a tough month to make a pick like that. This is a month where there were well more than 3 that I really wanted to back. There's like wanting to back, there's wanting to back but saying no to the rest, then there's like really wanting to back, and there were like 5 or 6 games I wanted to shove into the only, if you could only back 3. Some hard choices had to be made there, so you can check out that if you haven't already. And that brings us to today. Today we have obviously this video. Then at 1 o'clock p.m., 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we have a Legendary Gamer unboxing. Legendary Gamer is something you may or may not have seen on other channels already, but basically Upper Deck Games is running a giant giveaway. If you want to be eligible for trips to Gen Con 2022, plus other prizes and stuff, I recommend watching that video. And then we have a Verdant playthrough and review I did with Rena. Basically, I did a playthrough and review with Rena of Verdant, like it sounds like. That'll be going up at 4 Eastern Standard Time. And then next week's going to be a busy, jam-packed week. The different weeks are interesting in the sense of how excited I am for the different videos coming out. I'm excited for almost all the videos coming out this coming week. We have 10 Come On games I wasn't going to back, but then predictably did. We have a bunch of content around Master of the Universe, speaking of come on. We're going to have a new Deluxeification games but I do once a month I do a segment on Deluxeifying games. I'll be doing that one this month with Ricky, so it's going to be me and her talking about different games. I have a Play This Not That, I think it's coming this week. I think this week I'm doing a Play This Not That of Verdant versus Cascadia versus Calico. It's a 4-way Play This Not That with me, Rena, Shira, and Jesse all chiming in together. The biggest Play This Not That we've done on the channel, I'm pretty sure, covering those 3 games and really going at it. I really enjoyed that video. I hope you do as well. And then other videos, I'm just giving you a small sampling of what's coming up. And that is basically everything there, which brings us to the last segment of the video, the games on the couch. So, Paint the Roses. I enjoy Paint the Roses, but really it has a bunch of modules inside it that mix up the experience. I haven't played with those modules, and I need to, because it absolutely will determine my rating for this game. We'll talk more about that later. We have Mind MGMT. I just say Mind Management. Am I supposed to say it Mind MGMT, or is it Mind Management okay? But Mind Management is going to be a game by Jay Cormier and Senfung Lim. This is going to be one that I am really looking forward to. I like hit and roll games in general. Beast, by the way. Pay attention to Beast. But either way, Mind MGMT is one that I hope to table soon. I read the rulebook. I hope to get this played this week. And then we have Raccoon Tycoon, the big box edition from Forbidden Games. Raccoon Tycoon is a game that I debated not getting because I already played and backed Lizard Wizard, which is the newer, more gamified version of Raccoon Tycoon. Having read the rules for Raccoon Tycoon, I can see that, but I'm still intrigued to see whether Raccoon Tycoon is worth keeping alongside the two. And plus, of course, it makes for a great Play This Not That content when I do get my copy of Lizard Wizard. So I really do want to play Raccoon Tycoon and give it a shot and see how enjoyable it is, because, I mean, for one thing, it has a giant wooden animal first player markers, which are adorable. But either way, that has been your week in review. Another long one. Sorry for how long these things drag out. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from BoardGameCo. I hope you enjoy your weekend, and as always, have a good one.